Reading in bed. Reading in bed.
Right, Amanda, what are we doing today?
We're doing Reading in Bed, episode 51.
I know, you've counted it this time as well, Amanda, haven't you? Just to make sure, no confusion on my side with the numbers, obviously. So who am I anyway?
You're my husband.
Who is, you're not going to be, we don't call ourselves husband and wife reading a bed podcast, do we?
It is, that's what it's called.
Is it really now? He's a bit of takeover, has
he? Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me. Of course, I am Andy N.
I'm Amanda Nicholson.
What is Reading in Bed, Amanda? Seriously.
It's a book review podcast.
Yeah, and what does it mean when we're on episode 51?
It means we've been going since so long, and people think we should stop now.
Poor people. Now, obviously, so we've been doing this monthly, Amanda, haven't we? Seriously. And this is our 5th year now, of all things. So, yeah, 3rd episode, 4th year, or 5th year, actually. You know. But anyway, so anybody, of course, that knows us would know we do dedicate the first part to news. Don't we, Amanda?
Yeah.
And what news have you got?
So I've had a piece of flash fiction published by Flash Fiction magazine, which is free to read online, and they post a story every day. And mine was posted, I think, sometime last week. I think it was 17th. So no, it was over a week ago then.
Now,
and
of course,
it's called Revenge of the Mannequin.
Yeah. Now, where did this piece come from, Amanda?
It came from one of our workshops.
Yeah. Now, people may wonder as well if there's been more of a live thing so far, but I think I will get this published somewhere, I don't doubt as well. I wrote a piece on Amanda as well, didn't I?
Yeah, the theme was something to do with mannequins, wasn't it? And I came up with mine, and you came up with something completely different. But it was both mannequins.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, it's a funny one, that, because when you do, it's worth knowing as everybody, if you ever do a workshop, I always believe, like, you always find them on there, don't you? Like, you've both given a theme, it can end up being completely different things, can't it?
Yeah.
And that's what I think is fun about that workshop. Mine ended up being called Mannequin and Chips, and I'm not going to give anything spoilers away, but it's a little bit unusual, Amanda, isn't it?
A little bit.
Ickle bit, definitely so. But anyway, we'll come on to that another day. So now, yeah, that's what you've got, obviously, there, like you said, yours. So I know, when's that piece out? Was it out, now, or was it out soon, did you say?
Yeah, it came out, I think it was the 17th.
17th. If you check it out, it's a fantastic piece. It really, really is. I really, really like it. It's one of my favourite pieces of yours, man. I think you know that anyway, don't you? So, and I think you like mine as well. But anyway, my news, God, I've not really been up to much recently. I'm demoing a new album for Ocean and the Bottle at the moment, and that's getting there. I've got a track coming out with Huddersfield. So I'm not told them under this yet, actually. This is hot off the presses. I've done a track of this past week with a Huddersfield-based poet who approached me to do a piece. So I've done the music. She's done the vocals. It's really good as well, but that'll be out whenever. We've got to sort that one out yet. So I'm doing some Napawino, getting my plans together for that now, aren't I, for National Poetry Writing Month.
Yeah, I think I'm going to miss it this year.
Yeah, you're busy. She's busy with the day job, unfortunately, aren't you? So,
yeah.
But yeah, there's not a lot going on at the moment for me, really. And yours both just working really at the moment, aren't we? So, but more news next month anyway. So, right, okay, Amanda. What are we doing first today, then?
We're doing a book, strangely enough, on this podcast of all places.
Yeah. Now, we're going to do our joint book together, aren't we, today, Amanda? Now, for people who don't know, Amanda, do you want to reveal the title of the book?
It's called Last One at the Party, and it's by Bethany Clift.
Yeah. Now, do you want me to do the ping? I said the blurb, and the words mixed up then.
Yeah.
Okay. It's quite nice. What I like about this was quite a nice, short, concise blurb as well. Okay. The blurb is, the end of everything was her beginning. It's November 2023. The human race has been wiped out by the 6DM virus, 6 days maximum, the longest you've got before your body destroys itself. The end of the world as we know it. Yet someone is still alive, alone in a new world of burning cities, rotting corpses, and ravenous rats. one woman has survived. A woman who has spent her whole life compromising what she wants and hiding how she feels to meet other people's expectations. From her career to relationship to what she wears and where she lives, she made a lifetime of decisions to fit what other people want her to be. But with no one left, who will she become now? She's completely alone. Right, okay, Amanda. This has been an interesting experience, this book, really, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell people what's been a bit unusual about this book for me and you?
Well, there's only one character in it for most of the book.
Yeah, no, the reading experience. Sorry, Amanda, the reading experience of the book, I should say.
Oh, yeah, because I've been reading it on Pigeonhole, and you've been reading it as a Kindle book.
Yeah, because what was odd about this was how many days into the book, Amanda, were you? Because it was 10 days, wasn't it, for you again on Pigeonhole, wasn't it? Now, obviously, Amanda, we better explain, as we always do, what is Pigeonhole, first of all?
It's a book service which, if people have heard of NetGalley, it's a bit like that, where people can read advanced copies of books or new books. But on Pigeonhole, you get split over 10 days, so you read a section each day.
Yeah, this was unusual, wasn't it? Why was this unusual, Amanda?
I don't know, you tell me.
Well, you told me when you were into the book, and I can't remember how many days it was, that it's come out in Amazon Kindle, hasn't it, for 99 pence on Amazon.
Yeah.
And you told me you thought I'd like it. And so bizarrely enough, I think you were several days into the book, weren't you?
Yeah.
And you told me, and I spotted it. Oh, yeah, I get it. I'll read it. And I think I read it in about fairly quickly as well for me, about 4 or 5 days. And I got to the end of the book before you did, didn't I? So it was like a race, wasn't it? Who could finish the book off first?
Yeah. And then I was like, please don't tell me what happened.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we better tell people what's going on in the strength of this book, hadn't we? So.
Yeah, so if I had to describe it, I'd say it's like a cross between Bridget Jones and The Walking Dead minus the zombies.
Yeah, it's come up. That's come up. I've read that actually. Seriously, I've actually read that somewhere as well. Actually, describing it like that.
Are you sure that's not my review?
I've not seen that review.
That in a review.
I've not seen that review, so I can't comment there. So, but no, it's true. And it was interesting, seriously. And I'm sure you'd agree with me, Amanda. It really was a mood piece, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was an exercise, really, where you see this the story is just one person. I know there's quite a lot of flashbacks in it. What do you reckon? It's about half the book. Flashbacks, would you say, Amanda, with it?
Yeah, I think the flashbacks, they highlight a lot of the regrets. And I think we all have them. It's like, shows you, like, once you've lost everything, it's like, it shows you what stuff mattered, and you start thinking about, like, what you did and what you could have done different, and just everything that you regret. And I think that's what they focus on.
Yeah, the book is incredibly frank. And I'm sure you'd agree, mate. It's emotional, blunt, and I think it's funny, very funny in places as well, actually. Very sad as well. So,
considering that she thinks she's the only person left in the world, like, there are some lighter moments. It's not completely depressing the whole way through.
Yeah, if I'm honest, and I want to know your opinion on this as well, perhaps the timing clearly won't be for everybody, as we're still technically just coming out of COVID, aren't we? I
don't know if you knew this, but she actually wrote it before COVID.
Oh, did
she was in the finishing bits of it, and then COVID and lockdown and everything happened. And she actually went through the book and weaved COVID into it. So, you know, when she's thinking about this is worse than the 2020 pandemic, that was actually put in afterwards, because she wrote the majority of it before COVID.
Didn't know that. Now, did you know, what's back to you as well? Because this book is very cinematic in places. Did you know she's a film director?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check the film out. There's a film out. She's done a film, actually, independent horror film, which I've not seen yet. So I wanted to find this out before. So, yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book, actually. I've got to say that. It wasn't perfect, but it's obviously but it was easy to read, wasn't it? Did you find that?
Yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that I had to read a bit each day for 10 days, I would have read it a lot quicker than that.
Yeah. Now, I want to raise a quick comparison before we go on, because I went back and dug up. People may be aware we actually read a book that was very similar to this, actually. It had zombies in it by Frank Tyrell, all the way back in episode 2 of Reading in Bed.
I remember referring to it more than I actually remember anything about the book. I just know the book was bad. And for nearly every episode for a while after that, we always used to compare it and say it was better than the zombie book or it was worse than the zombie book.
Yeah, and what that book did, and that was a bad example, this is a good example. That book in question was Surviving the Evacuation, London, Book 1. Now, that was basically just told through the eyes of one person. And didn't meet any other people. It just seemed to meander on that plot. Now, you could argue with this book. That's why I'm not so sure I agree with this. There wasn't a ton of plot behind it, really, was there? Because all I remember in the first half of the book, but it was very, very well done. That's the difference. You used to get scenes of her breaking into hotels and masturbating herself. Let's be honest. She tried it herself 2 or 3 times every day. Got sat there getting drunk,
It's like because there's no electricity and obviously she's got no human company anymore. And it's like there's only so much you can do, so you can kind of understand it.
Yeah, it was shocking in places, that's for sure. Now, obviously, I don't want to give too much away, and you don't, but there was a major spoiler at the halfway stage of the book, which changed everything, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I think that was, I don't want to give away what the spoiler was, but what did you think, Amanda? Was that about the right time to do it? That was it.
Yeah, I think that was a good idea.
Yeah, it changed, made the book more focused, and before that, it was a moody character story, very well done, but it was a moody character story. That's for sure of it. So
I don't know if you noticed as well, but you don't know the name of the character. She's not named anywhere in the book.
Yeah, I got that. I was interested. That was an interesting approach. That. What did you think to that?
Yeah, I suppose they could have weaved it in the flashbacks, like somebody calls her by that name. But I like the fact that it's makes you focus on the fact that there's nobody around, and it's like your name doesn't really mean anything anymore because there's nobody to call you it.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a clever point, and there's a lot. I think in this book, there's a lot of very clever little things the writer did in this book, and that's why I think it's a really good book. It was. I'd probably say it's one of the best books I've read for a while, to be honest with you. Again, I didn't think I was going to enjoy it. I have to be honest. I genuinely didn't think I was going to enjoy it. But what did you think when you picked it up? Was it one of those books where you were a bit hesitant on originally?
Yeah, because I know like the pandemic and different viruses and stuff like that are coming into books more often now. And I read one that I'm not reviewing that was all right, called The End of Men. And that was probably one of the better ones that I've read. But then I've read some awful ones that are either based around the pandemic or based on viruses that are more scarier than the pandemic. And they've just not been that good. So I think this was probably one of the better ones.
Yeah, it was a character study, really. Perhaps more in a book about the end of the world, really, wasn't it? And based about how you actually cope with everything, like if everything's taken away from you. And obviously then, Mark, you look back at the book itself, which goes a lot of the flashbacks for me, and I want to know if you agree with this, are basically showing like how people generally controlled it, didn't they, throughout life?
Yeah, I think it's the same for a lot of people. It's like the decisions you make, it's always based on somebody or something else. It's very rare, I think, that people make decisions just based on like the what they want. There's always something more to it, isn't there?
Yeah, no, I agree completely. It was a real mood piece. I thought it was fantastic. I really, really did. Now, I've got to ask you, obviously, before we carry on with this and move on next, but point of it, obviously, I always look at a book, there's a journey, isn't there, of each major character in the book. Did you see the journey in this character?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Definitely did of it. And I'm not going to mention the ending because I'm going to comment on the weaknesses in a minute. But is there anything else you need to say, Amanda, about the strengths before we move on to the weaknesses?
I think it was good the way she deals. It shows us like she deals with the grief, because it's like she's basically lost the whole world, and then on a more personal level, she's lost like her family and her friends and everyone she cares about. And I think I don't think it would be realistic if she was just like in a corner crying, and it won't be like very entertaining either. And it's like some of the things she does, you think, oh, well, she's just lost everyone. Why is she doing that? But I think after so long, I think your emotions would shut off and you probably would react like she does.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what the point behind the book was really with it, really. So, no, I agree with you completely. Now, should we move on to weaknesses very briefly? So I don't think you've got a lot, and I've only got 1 point I need to raise.
Yeah.
Have you got anything on the weaknesses you want to say for I say what I want to say?
No, I've not got anything on the weaknesses.
Well, we've got to talk about the ending really with this one. And I didn't regard this as an ending, a weakness, and I don't think you did either, did you?
I feel like there could be more, but I don't think there should be. I think that should be the ending. So.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to give the ending away because we both want people to read the book itself, the ending. But I thought it was a strong ending, a really strong ending. Did you feel the same or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did as well. Now, the only way I can give a hint on this would be, it reminded me a lot of the ending of Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. And I'm going to say it in a roundabout way, and tell me if you agree with this, Amanda. After being such an intimate book, and it was quite focused through her eyes, it pulled the camera back, didn't it? You know what I mean? It showed what was going on outside the world more.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really strong ending. It's got extra marks to me because of that. I thought it's very, very good. But didn't you say you've read some reviews somewhere that people didn't like the ending on that, didn't they? They wanted to see what happened to her.
I did see
after a certain
people
point.
saying, I saw a few people saying, "Oh, there should be a sequel." And it's like I can see what they mean, but then on the other hand, I think there doesn't really need to be one.
No, I think a story's been told basically with that. To be honest, I think it definitely has, and I think to go back and do a sequel, actually to what had happened to her beyond a certain point in her life, and that's putting it nicely, isn't it? Okay, shall we say?
Yeah.
I think would be counterproductive, perhaps in that world, not with her. So, right, have you got anything else you need to bring up about this book, Amanda, before we mark it?
Yeah, I feel like the author, Bethany Clift, I think she thought of everything. It's like I was reading stuff and then I was thinking, yeah, that makes sense, that's happening. I wouldn't have thought of that. Like, it's slight spoiler, but the things with the rats and the seagulls, if you remember those scenes.
I do indeed. And we're also looking at stuff like, it's the way, and this is probably a point behind the book, actually, really, because we've had examples of this in lockdown, haven't we? When there was sheep took over a village in Wales, didn't they?
Yeah.
This is what the book covers in a different way, I think, and it worked very well for that with certain bits of wildlife. And I'm not going to say obviously what all of them were, but no, it was interesting. That's a good way of putting it, isn't it?
It makes sense because it's like the human fit is gone because she doesn't really come across any humans. I'm not going to say much more than that. And the animals that are left over, obviously, they're going to try to survive in whatever way they can. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. So I think that's one of the themes of the book. It shows how get humans out of the way. It shows how society does change, and it's really interesting to understand. That's why. So, right, Amanda, I've got nothing I need else to say here. Have you?
No.
Right then. Okay then. Shall we give it a mark?
Yeah.
Ladies first.
I'm going to give it 10 out of 10.
What do you reckon I'm giving it?
I think it's a recommendation.
Well, what do you give me, Mark, then? Go on then.
8 or 9.
10, actually.
Oh.
I thought it was a really cool book. Really, really enjoyed it. The ending, for me, give it the 10. Otherwise, it'd probably be an 8. But I thought the ending was brilliant. Very, very stylistic ending. And it didn't go down. The book didn't go down a lot of very obvious paths. And I think, do you get what I mean with that?
Yeah.
I think it worked really well for that. And it's a really good book. I think I'm going to struggle to find a book that's probably got as good at this year, don't you?
Yeah, I think with The Walking Dead and stuff, it's like the fit is human and it wasn't in this because, she's like on her own for a lot of time.
Yeah, and I agree. It was tremendous, really, really good. So, right, okay, guys and girls. Yes, well, that's the end of part 1. Well, this month then, I know Amanda's going to be doing the next book, aren't you, Amanda?
Yeah.
Are you going to give us any spoilers?
Yeah. Some men are going to explain things to me.
Oh. Okay, well, I'll find out more in a minute then. Say bye, Amanda.
Bye.
See you in a minute, guys.
Reading in bed.
Hey guys, yes. Episode, oh crap. Episode number
51.
51. Right, we'll try that again.
Area 51.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Right. Okay. See, mind freeze there for a second. Of course, Reading in Bed, episode 51. I think it is anyhow. I am Andy N. She is
Amanda N.
All right. Now you've graduated from you're not Amanda Steele anymore, Amanda Nicholson. You're now Amanda N, are you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's over to you, Amanda, seriously. Your first solo book of the month. Now, people are wondering recently, what we've had some fun on Amanda, with me and Amanda, is we've not actually told each other what the books are we're doing, and that adds to the fun sometimes.
Yeah.
Amanda knows what my second solo book is going to be for this month because she's seen me read it in hardback, but she knows what the other one is, and I've no idea what either of your books are. So, over to you. What's the book called?
It's called Men Explain Things to Me by Renecca Solnit.
That's one my dad got you, wasn't it, for Christmas?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one there, everybody. I wonder what my dad sometimes. My dad and mum seem to got together and got this book after me getting a list of books to give Amanda out of her Amazon reads list, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, right. Okay, Amanda. Tell us about this book, first of all, the blurb then, please. And I've got questions.
In a comic-scathing essay, Men Explain Things to Me, Renecca Solnit took on what often goes wrong in conversations between men and women. She wrote about men who wrongly assume they know things and wrongly assume women don't, about why this arises and how this aspect of the gender wars works, airing some of her own hilariously awful encounters. She ends on a serious note because the ultimate problem is the silencing of women who have something to say, including those saying things like, "He's trying to kill me." The book features that now classic essay with 6 perfect compliments, including an examination of the writer Virginia Woolf's embrace of mystery, of not knowing, of doubt and ambiguity, a highly original inquiry into marriage equality and terrifying survey of the scope of contemporary violence against women.
Oh, it sounds a cheerful book, doesn't it? Straight away. So.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that's her fault. I know when mum and dad got you this for Christmas, mum and dad did, really. Bit of a surprise for my dad, this one. Also, I would have put him down for getting you this book, actually. But, okay, well, I need to obviously know, first of all, then, what made you want to read this book in the first place, then?
I think the essay, the book's titled after Men Explain Things to Me. I was interested in that because I know there's a lot of people going on about mansplaining at the moment, which is where men explain things to women thinking that they don't know. And usually they're wrong as well.
I'm not even going to answer that. So no comment to be a man. Okay, so no, it's interesting. Like I said, I think it's okay. So you can argue then, man, with this one, really. Obviously, we're looking at this end. This is more really, isn't it? This is more like a non-fiction book, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a book of essays. So I'm assuming that she's had at least some of these published somewhere before. And considering that I think there's it said there was 6 others, so there must be 7 in total in the book. So they must be fairly long as well. So I think you'd get paid quite well for them.
Yeah, it's like, it does sound an interesting book, actually. So, did it take you long to read this book?
I just read a little bit every day for a couple of weeks, but I could have easily just sat down and read the whole thing. But I think it was hard to get into it sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's that sort of book, and I've got some history books like this on the American West. It's a different feel, but it's one of those sort of books where I think it's you dip in and out with it. You read bits, don't you? Then it's not like a fiction book, is it? We can just read it page after page. So I can imagine it took you a while to read this book, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us tell us a bit more about the strengths of this book, Amanda. What you really liked about it.
It's difficult because I agreed with a lot of stuff that she said, but she lost me on quite a lot of things as well.
Oh, yeah. What do you mean? Do you think she went over the top with some of the details, did she, on it, basically?
I think she's very well educated, but I just felt like the book's not aimed at me. It's like some people that are listening to this will know I left school before taking my exams, and then I went on to get 2 degrees later on in life. And my MA's centered around creative writing, so it's not like, like academic, like a really
Yeah.
academic degree or anything like that. And it's like, I don't think I would know some of the stuff she was going on about, even if I had stayed at school and sat through exams. It feels very specialised, and I just feel like a lot of people, the average person reading the book, wouldn't know the stuff she's talking about.
Yeah, so am I right in thinking you think it's quite a niche market as a book, this one, basically?
Yeah. And it felt a lot like she was showing off sometimes, like, look at all this stuff I know, I'm so clever.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Yeah, so it's like, do you think the book was probably overdone then, basically? You're trying to say in a roundabout way then, aren't you?
Yeah. And it's like, I know, like in the blurb, Virginia Woolf's mentioned, but she does quote her an awful lot in the book. And at some point, so I was just thinking, like, who's writing these essays, you or Virginia Woolf?
Well, that had been very hard because Virginia Woolf's been dead, what? If not over 100 years, certainly pushing it.
Yeah,
Certainly
but it's just the fact that she was quoted so much. It's like, it's fair enough if you want to quote something to back up what you're saying, but there was quite a lot of it.
Yeah, it sounds like it was overdone. Yeah, I get you completely with it. So, but like I said, is there anything else you bring up about this book, Amanda? Did you find some of the essays easier than others to read? So there were 6 of them, weren't there?
I just felt like there was nothing really new. It's all been said. There was nothing like I could take away from it that I thought, oh yeah, that's a good way of putting that. I've not heard that before. It was just stuff that's so, I mean, it's important stuff, but it was repeated from things that other people have said.
Yeah, no, of course. So, okay, now, if that's the case, then, is there anything else you need to bring up, any negative points about this book in particular, apart from what you've already said?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, then, well, that been the case, Amanda, we better give it a marking, hadn't we, then? So, what are you going to give this out of 10?
I'm giving it 6 out of 10 because I can't quite give it a 7 to recommend it.
Oh dear, is that because you think the book was probably trying to be too clever for his own good? Then, are you?
Yeah, and I just don't know who it would appeal to, because I just don't feel like everyone would know a lot of the stuff that she's talking about.
Yeah,
she tries to talk about different things. I think it's the first essay, and she was talking about some book over and some guy that was talking to her, and either her or a friend had actually written this book, but it's just the things they were talking about that was in this book. I just don't think anyone would know it. And she was making out the guy was stupid, but it's like, well, I'm a woman and I don't know it either, so am I stupid as well?
Oh God, yeah, no, I get you completely. It just sounds like that striking. Oh dear. I suppose it's one of those things, but am I right in thinking, to conclude with this, Amanda? Would you have said this is more an interesting book rather and a good book, would you say?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of things in it, but like I said, there's nothing new, really.
Yeah, of course. So I get you. But anyway, well, that's it for this book, Amanda, isn't it? Then that been the case.
Yeah.
What do you want to know about a hint for the next book, which is my solo book?
Give us a clue.
We're going to the circus.
Yeah, I like the circus. Not
a circus like this one you haven't seen before. That's the best way of putting it. Okay, so I said, anyway, we shall see you all in a few moments, then, won't we? Okay.
Yeah.
I said we're off to the circus, so that's why. So brilliant. Okay, guys and girls. See you all soon. Say bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Reading in bed.
Welcome back to Reading in Bed, and we're still on episode 51.
Are we?
That's Andy N. I'm Amanda Nicholson. I've changed back on my Amanda N now.
The X-Files theme tune for yourself.
That does not sound like the X-Files theme tune.
In the end of the world, it does, right? So
it's a nice name.
Anyway, okay. What do you want to know about from me, Amanda?
Okay, so give us the title and the author.
Okay, the book is by Katherine Dunn, and it's called Geek Love.
Okay. Do you want to read the blurb?
Oh, yeah, yes. Okay, I'm going to struggle with a few of the words on this, I'll warn you, okay? But I think you can probably work out what they are, okay? Geek Love is a story of the Beniskis, a Carney family whose Mater and Patra families set out with the help of Afrotanian, Arsenic, and Radios Tots to breed their own exhibit of human oddities. There's Aquadun the Aqua Boy, who has flippers for limbs and a megalomaniac ambition worthy of Genghis Khan. Ilfi and Ellie, Limson Siamese twins, albino hunchback Ollie, and the outwardly normal chick, whose mysterious gifts make him their family's most precious and dangerous asset. As the Beniskis take their act on across the backwaters of the US, inspiring fanatical devotion and murderous revulsion, its members conduct their own McKellen vision of sibling rivalry. Geek Love throws its sulphurous light on our notions of the freakish and the normal, the beautiful and the ugly, the whole and the obscene. Family values will never be the same.
Okay, so what made you pick up this book to read?
It came off a song, actually. A song I'm not going to name it, also called Geek Love, by a band I do like, actually. And it's one of those ones I've been in my head to read for a couple of years now. And long story short, when we both went down with COVID at the beginning of the year, I just needed something a bit weird in my head to read. So I basically went down and basically got a copy of this book.
Okay. So do you want to start with the strengths?
Yeah, well, okay. Are you feeling much any David Lynch stuff, Amanda, film director?
I might have done, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I feel like I have.
You probably would have done. I don't know what you've watched. You've watched anything like Wild at Heart, have you, and Nicolas Cage?
No.
Well, we'll have to introduce you to that one some point. But it's a bit like the Elephant Man sort of. This is in a family, in a circus, right? So, because it feels like to me, I'm surprised that he's never considered adapted into a novel, because the weirdness is, I think, is tailor-made for him. Because I've read somebody in Goodreads described it as this, Amanda. This is a mouthful, okay?
Yeah.
It's grotesque, moving, beautiful, creepy, unsettling, tragic, and dark.
Okay, sounds good.
Now, I have to be honest with this book, okay, before we go any further. I don't think there was a lot of plot going on in it once you got the shot over the shock of the Aqua Boy, okay?
Yeah.
Apart from it's really a journey of a family travelling across America with the circus. It was a bloody hard book to read as well. Why do you think that was then?
I don't know.
It's one of those ones where there was a lot of time jumping around going on. It was jumping around to at least 3 or 4 different time zones from chapter to chapter. And I think it's one of those books where you had to basically, I think, pick it up. I said before, the other book's a mood piece, really, because it's a very, very hard book to read. Because there's some of the chapters that were jumping around in, I had to pay attention to it. And you know what I mean? That's why I think it's good when I was really ill for about a week. Yeah. I actually went into this book. If it had been a normal month like we are, and people know I read books, so when I'm going to and from work sometimes, I would have struggled with this book. It's one of those, it's a piece you've got to be in the right frame of mind for. Do you understand what I mean, like, Mandy? You say, like, you read some books, don't you? Like,
yeah.
You can put them down and come back to them a couple months later, can't you? And get it in the second or third attempt.
Yeah.
That's why. So, but tell me, how does it define to you, Amanda, when you're thinking really with this? Like, it's a book about a family, basically, like traveling across America. They've created their own, mother and father created their own children, and deformed them all to make them a freak circus.
I suppose that's one way to provide money.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's very, very, very weird. It was. I think it's sometimes one of those ones. There's a good weird and there's a bad weird, and this one went in the middle of it, really. So if that makes sense, does it?
Yeah.
That's why. But I think there's been a lot of negative reviews in this book, and there's been a lot of very, very good reviews. So it's like, do you ever, when we do our book reviews, man, do you ever read what people have said about books sometimes?
Sometimes after I've written the notes up, just to see if anybody agreed with anything I said. If I'm thinking like, oh, I wonder if I'm the only person that thinks this. So I'll look through the reviews and see if anybody else thinks it.
Yeah, same for me. And it's this is one of those books where it's pretty much been split halfway down the middle. And should I go into the weaknesses and then you'll understand why, won't you? So,
yeah,
because it's the editing on this book has been very scattershot, and there was quite a few spelling mistakes in it, and there was parts of the book where it was just meandering. You sat there thinking, it's very good, weird. I don't know what's going on. Where's it leading to? And bit points like that. Well, like I said, it was I think the main character chick got on my nerves a bit as well, actually, to be honest as well. So that's why. But somebody put a quote up on Goodreads, and can I give you the quote?
Yeah.
And I think that this probably sums it up better, really. This book is about belonging and acceptance in ways that is partially disturbing and not unbelievable. I just found it really odd. And it was like, it probably took me, I was on this book for 6 weeks, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's, like the other 2 books that we've both done. I read the other 2 books in about a week and a half each. This took 6 weeks because I struggled with it because of the editing side of it, and it was jumping around a lot. It just was a really, really difficult book to read. I enjoyed it, but it was a bit frustrating as well. So have you ever found that, man, there's some books you read yourself where you think yourself, I don't know what's going on here, but you're still going to carry it on. There's something you like about it, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I went through this book, really, so it was a funny one. So anyway.
Okay, so is there anything else you want to say, or do you want to give it a mark?
No, that's pretty right. I'm going to come on about when I'm move on. Okay, so what do you reckon I'm going to give this book?
I think you might give it a 7.
Oh my! What do you reckon, then?
Yeah.
7. Yeah, it gets a recommendation. I think it's a classic. I didn't realise until after I finished it how old it is. It's about 20 years old or something. It is. And, and the writer only wrote 2 other books, and I believe she's died fairly recently as well. So it was like interesting anyway. So anyway, that's it for me on my first solo book. Amanda, what is your second book about?
I'll give you a clue. Sister.
Sisterhood or sister?
I don't know, you'll have to see.
Right, well, you have to come back, everybody. When a few minutes, you'll see part 4. See you in a bit. Say bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Reading in bed.
Hi, guys. Yes, it's Andy N. Amanda Nicholson, of course, in the other corner. This is Reading in Bed. I hope it's episode 51. I'm losing count.
It is.
Yeah, good. Okay. Over to Amanda for second book of the month, or second solo book, anyway. Amanda, what is this book called?
This is called Her Perfect Twin by Sarah Bonner.
Oh, dear.
I actually got the audiobook for this, so I listened to this rather than read it.
Okay, what made you go for this book, then?
Look, it was the blurb, and it was on my list, and then I rejoined Audible and decided to get it as the first book. So here's a blurb. When Megan discovers photographs of her estranged identical twin sister on her husband's phone, she wants answers. Leah already has everything Megan has ever wanted: fame, fortune, freedom to do what she wants. And when Megan confronts Leah, an argument turns to murder. The only way Megan can get away with killing her twin is to become her. But then lockdown hits. How can she continue living 2 lives? And what happens if someone else knows her secret too?
That's all I'm going to say there. Okay, so can you remember how long ago? Obviously, I can't ask you obviously the length of the book, but how long was the audible version of it? Can you remember?
Oh, I can't remember, but it seemed to go on for quite a while.
So it was a lengthy book there, basically, then, was it? So, which is fair enough. Yeah. So, okay, then. Well, give us the strength of this book, Amanda, then.
So I liked the sister Megan, and then I didn't know that it was in a certain amount of parts. I'm not going to say how many parts it's in with different narrators, because it starts off with Megan and then it went on to the creepy husband, which you heard part of once when I was listening to the audio book.
Oh, is that it? Yeah, I remember that one. I'm sorry, it might be horrible to the book. I was laughing my socks off at that point. I do remember that now.
But it showed you what a moron it was, didn't it? Which is good that it demonstrated that. Because it's like not everyone in books is going to be nice and sweet and innocent. And there was certainly a lot of nastier people in this book.
Yeah, there was some pretty... I don't want to give anything away, okay, but there were characters, and that's putting it nicely, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, anyway, Amanda, carry on then. Okay, seriously, go on.
So then it switched a few more times, and then there were a few more twists, and then with each one it just got a bit more ridiculous, and I liked it less. I would have just preferred for it to focus on the character of Megan and just sort of finish from there. I mean, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but it does get pretty ridiculous by the end of it.
Yeah, no,
And
it's
the way that they've done it with the first person accounts, it doesn't work because of the twists, which I can't tell you what they are.
yeah, no, of course, I get you completely with that. So, okay, I think we might be best we move straight on to the weaknesses, and okay, in this case. So, do you want to tell us about the weaknesses of this book then?
I think the weaknesses were that it was just it was too ridiculous by the end of it.
Was it one that you think as a book it went on too long as well, was it? Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, and the blurb, it didn't really, the book wasn't anything like the blurb, or it didn't feel like it. Like the last bit of the blurb says, then lockdown hits, how can she continue living two lives? It doesn't really focus on that very much. It goes on to the next bit then, and the next twist and the next narrator. And I would like to see that with more tension of her trying to live two lives, but it doesn't. So it shouldn't really be in the blurb because it's not really a big part of the story.
Yeah, it sounds like to me, doesn't it? One of these sort of books where the blurb is very misleading, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's the best way of putting it. Oh dear, I'm sorry to hear that one. So, okay, what have we? I don't think we've covered the weaknesses, have we? So tell us what.
That's the weaknesses, really.
Is that really all the weaknesses? Is it really for you? Yeah. So that's fair enough then. So okay then. Now, unless you've got anything else to add, Amanda, we better move on to the markings then, hadn't we?
Well, I'm ready to give it a mark.
Okay, what mark can you give it out of 10 then?
Well, before I give it a mark, I just have to say the first half of the book would have been a 9, but the second half would probably be a 5. So overall, I'm going to give it a 7, but it's only just about recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, you struggled this one then, basically, didn't you? So,
yeah,
and the sound things, it happens, like I said, doesn't it? So, I had a lot of trouble with Geek Love before this, so, but win some, you lose some, so definitely with that. So, okay, Amanda, should we move on to part 5?
Yeah, what's coming next?
Me, isn't it?
Yeah, what is it? Give us a clue.
X marks the spot.
Oh, no, I can't possibly guess. I bet it's a brand new book by an author that you've never read anything from before.
Nope. Nope. Definitely nope. Anyway, I would even know more clues away, haven't I? So, right, Amanda, say bye.
Bye.
See you all in a minute, guys. Seriously.
Reading and bet.
Welcome back to Reading in Bed with me, Amanda Nicholson, and
Andy N. What episode number is this, Amanda? Is it 151?
51.
51. No, where we're going is in a couple of years' time, we're 151 motives. Anyway, okay, Amanda.
And so, what's this book called, and who's written it?
I've got to double check my notes actually. Yeah, Dark Horse, Orphan X7 by Gregg.
Yeah, who's he then? Never heard of him. Has he written anything else?
Oh, he's done about it. Seriously, Gregg Hurwitz. I didn't realise how. I knew him. It turns out he originally was a comic writer. Actually, it was, and he went into novels, and he's done 7 in this series, and he's done about 20 odd books. He has. So you think really he puts the books out.
Half of them.
I haven't. I haven't referred to a book series, that's for sure. I've done all the Orphan X ones. I think I've read a couple of his other ones, but I didn't really enjoy them as much. So, right, Amanda.
Okay. Do you want to give us the blurb?
Yeah. Okay. I didn't realize how long this blurb was actually. Okay. Evan Smock is a man with many identities and a challenging past. As Orphan X, he was a government assassin for the off-the-books Orphan program. After he broke with the program, he adopted a new name and new mission, the Nowhere Man, helping the most desperate in their times of trouble. Having just survived an attack on his life and the complete destruction of his base of operations, as well as his complicated and deepening relationship with his neighbour Mayor Hall, Evan isn't interested in taking on a new mission. One finds him anyway. Aaron Arun is a kingpin of major drug dealing operation in South Texas. He's also the patron of the local area supplying employment in legit operations, providing help to the hopeless, rough justice to the downtrodden, and a future to the people normally with little hope. He's complicated and not completely good man who does bad things for often good reasons. However, for all his money and power, he is helpless when one of the most vicious cartels kidnaps his innocent 18-year-old daughter, spirited away into the armed complex that is their headquarters in Mexico. With no other way to rescue his daughter, he turns to nowhere. Now, not only must Owen figure out how to get into the impregnable fortress of a heavily armed, deeply paranoid cartel leader, but he must decide if he should help a very bad man, no matter how just the cause.
Oh, I thought I saw length of the blurb. How big's the book?
But it's pushing 500 pages.
Yeah.
That's why. It was fairly easy to read this book. To be honest with you, I think I read it. The book's been out about a week and a half, I think, by the time we're recording, or 2 weeks maybe. And I got it. 2 days before, didn't I?
Yeah.
In hardback in the post, and I read it about a week and a half. So I didn't do too bad with it. So that's why. So, but where do you want to start, Amanda?
Well, let's start with the strengths.
Yeah, well, obviously people want to backtrack to last year's podcast. They might remember basically the book at the end of book 6, it gets blown up. The flat he was in, he opens the door up and everything goes boom, literally.
Yeah.
But they didn't actually reveal in this book. There's a hint right at the end who did it, which was a bit of a surprise, really, because the book moved on some time and starts with him getting his house repaired and no interest in taking on another job, which I suppose you can't blame him, really, can you?
No.
Until he gets contacted to go and try and find help, try and find a beautiful 18-year-old girl who's been kidnapped. Like I said before with the trailer, the blurb, father isn't exactly the most gracious man in the world. Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
But he's not completely evil like the cartel leader who has the one kidnapped his daughter. So, and I think with these books, it's a bit like everyone reads the Jack Reacher books. They're quite some ways similar to that.
I did wonder that. It does have that feel to it, even though I've not read either of them, but we've obviously recently watched the Jack Reacher series.
Yeah, Amazon apparently produced the first book in this series, actually, they have been told, Prime. So, and it'll be a good series, I don't doubt it. It's just touch in some ways the same stuff as Reacher, but the character, I think he's more troubled than Reacher. Reacher's just a man mountain of trouble. It was like, this guy's quite complicated, and I think this guy's more dangerous because obviously he doesn't have the easygoing power of Reacher. This guy, he just goes and he'll basically take people out. He don't fuck around here, kill them, don't mess around.
Yeah.
That's why. But yeah, what's interesting with this book was the guy contacts him. It was one of those ones where it's a good looking at where Evan looks at things in his life. Like the books sometimes can be a bit, black and white. He decides they're evil, and he'll get rid of them. Don't mess around. This one's a bit more of a trickier grey area because the guy that contacts him has got good bits and bad bits about his personality. So I mean, it's a bit more grey evidence than black and white. And I think it worked really well because I think the guy, obviously Aaron Ulan that came into it, I think he added a nice bit to the book actually because the book was probably more about him as much as it was about Evan. That's why, and I think, and it was perhaps it showed the world he's in is not as black and white as he might originally thought by the book. So I think it was a good move that. So.
Okay. So is there anything else you want to say before the weaknesses?
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, so I'm not going to give anything away. There was an epilogue at the book. It was a doozy. Do you like the word doozy?
Yeah.
It was a crack. Oh, the last 2 pages would give a hint on the net. I was clearly going to be the 8th book. That was a doozy. Absolutely. The next 8th book, if they go into that subplot they're talking about right at the end, it's going to be a cracking 8th book. It'll probably be the best one since the 3rd or 4th, I reckon. That's why. So, but anyway, wait and see.
So, what are the only weaknesses in the book?
A couple of things, yeah, there was in it. They're not major, but there was a couple of things that stood out to me a bit in this one. There's 3 things, really. And it was great to see a bit more of his relationship deepening with, obviously, Mia, who's his neighbour, who's a lawyer, basically. That's the best bit. He's a killer, basically like a mercenary killer. And she's a lawyer who doesn't know what he did. It was nice to be on the relationship between her, but there was a big scene in it, one of like 20 or 30 pages, happened right in the middle of the book, where he met Mia's brother, and it took me right out of the book. You know what I mean? When you've got all this craziness going in the background, I don't know whether that bit was needed. And then there's been a bit of criticism going on about the use of Joey in this book, his teenage sidekick, where some people have been saying she's good. A character seemed to be a bit younger in this book and in the previous book when she was helping him deal with some of the drug lords. But at the end of the book, you see her going off on a road trip by herself with her dog. So, which I think that's great club still. But it's by the time we get book 7, I think guessing probably next year we'll probably see more of the Joey everyone likes. So, and we only got a hint about his father, which came up quite massively in the last book, but he's not tracked him down yet. So that probably be book 8 or 9, I reckon, was.
Okay. So do you want to give it a mark out of 10?
Yeah. Now, what do you reckon I'm going to give it, Amanda?
Well, it's could be high.
Well, you give me an opinion.
At least 9.
8.5.
Oh,
it wasn't the favourite book because of the things before. The last one when he met his mother and his fatty had a half brother. That was a really good book. And he had one from the book before, which when he went took on the US president. That was pretty full on. This felt a bit like a drop down in pace to me almost. But it's good. It was different, but I enjoyed it. So anyway, that's it, Amanda.
Okay.
Right. Okay then. Reading about episode 52, of course, will follow in April. And we're due to do Storytime episode 5, Amanda, aren't we, next week as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, next week. That's going to be with our friend Ray Douglas, all being well. So watch the space for that. Now, what books are we doing next month, Amanda?
So we're doing a book called Just Like Me, I think it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, and I got my Kindles is not to hand, so I couldn't tell you who that book's by. So.
And I'm also going to review the new poetry book by Misha Collins.
Yep. I'm getting serious to get into the end of the Paul Auster book now, Burning Boy, which is his biography about Stephen Crane. That's nearly 800 pages, so it's took a while, that one. I've got about another 250 to go on that, so I'm aiming to get that read this week. I am reading as well that book that Amanda's obviously said, and my other book for April is going to be by Stephen Crane, who Paul Auster was writing about. And I'm reading a book called Maggie of the Streets, which is a pretty hard-hitting book because it's about prostitution. So it's word of warning. And on obviously Just Like Me book, next month's going to be more an adult-based episode because Amanda's been talking about another book and we're not going to reveal the name of that in case you don't do it. But we're talking on some pretty hard topics next month, aren't we? So
yeah. The horror book I've been reading is very disturbing for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, well, I've got ways to well, Just Like Me books has gone into really explicit, quite disturbing territory. And Maggie the Streets, unfortunately, is about prostitution. So that might give you a clue. Any children listen to this, I'll skip next month's episode. Would you say with that, Amanda, possibly?
Yeah.
Well, it is what it is. So. Right, anyway, guys and girls, well, that's it for me. Have you nothing else you want to add, Amanda, is there?
No.
Oh, well, let you say bye, Amanda, then, won't we?
Bye.
So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. Go on.
No, I won't be doing that.
Boring. Right, see you all next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Reading in bed. Reading in bed. Reading in bed.